Every zombie movie, show, and game operates on the same fundamental lie. Characters who've never touched a firearm are dropping zombies with perfect headshots like they're speed-running a tutorial. Hollywood has turned marksmanship into a participation trophy. So today, we're breaking down everything zombie fiction gets completely wrong about survival, starting with the most obvious offender, the infinite headshot accuracy. Here's a fun number for you. Trained law enforcement officers hit somewhere between 18 and 40% of their shots in high-stress encounters. That's professionals with hundreds of hours on the range, missing more than half the time. Now, take your average zombie movie survivor. No training, shaking hands, adrenaline turning their blood into Red Bull, and they're landing headshots at a 90% clip on moving targets. While running, the actual kill zone on a zombie, the brainstem and cerebellum, is about 6 to 8 square inches. You're not just hitting a head, you're hitting a fist-sized target inside a head. Even competitive shooters, the best in the world, drop to 25 to 35% accuracy in force-on-force scenarios with movement and pressure. Now factor in what stress does to your body. Tunnel vision cuts peripheral accuracy by 70 to 85%. Adrenaline tremor compounds your miss rate by another 30 to 50%. Your hands are shaking, your vision is narrowing, and you need over a second between shots just to recover from recoil. So, the next time a high school teacher drops 6 zombies with 6 rounds from a revolver, just know he'd be lucky to hit 2 of them anywhere on their body, which is, not ideal. But inaccuracy isn't even the biggest problem with survivor firearms. It's the noise, and nobody in Hollywood seems to care about that. The use of loud firearms. So, you've somehow landed the headshot. Congratulations. You've also just announced your exact location to every single threat within a mile and a half, which is, not ideal. An unsilenced 9mm pistol hits 159 decibels. A 5.56 rifle reaches 168. A 12-gauge shotgun blows past 170. For reference, permanent hearing damage starts at 140. A single 3-round burst in open terrain is audible across 1.1 to 1.5 miles, which means you've just pinged approximately 2,000 to 3,500 potential threats in every direction. 3 bullets? 3. And now, a small town's worth of zombies knows exactly where dinner is. But what about silencers? Great question. Hollywood would have you believe a suppressor turns any firearm into a gentle little whisper, a polite pew-pew that couldn't wake a sleeping baby. In reality, silencers only reduce noise by 20 to 35 decibels. That still leaves you at 130 to 150 decibels, clearly audible at half a mile. That's not stealth. That's just slightly less catastrophic self-advertisement. Here's where it gets worse. Auditory exclusion occurs in 70 to 85% of untrained individuals during combat. Your brain literally stops processing how loud you're being. So you keep firing, completely unaware that you're ringing the dinner bell across the entire county. And after just 30 minutes of sustained fire without ear protection, you're looking at 20 to 40 decibels of hearing loss permanently. Every conversation, every snapping twig, every shuffling footstep you needed to hear to stay alive, now muffled, forever. But if you think noise is the only thing Hollywood ignores about combat, wait until you see what they think happens when zombie blood splashes directly into your open mouth. The blood on the face. Immunity. Hollywood loves a good blood splatter moment. Survivor caves in a zombie skull, gets absolutely drenched in gore, wipes their mouth with the back of their hand, and keeps moving. It looks cool. It's also a death sentence. Here's the thing. Your face is packed with mucous membranes, the easiest entry points any pathogen could ask for. Eyes, nasal passages, mouth, all direct highways into your body. Then you've got microabrasions you don't even know are there. Every tiny nick from shaving, every cracked lip, every bit of dry skin is basically a welcome mat for infection. But the real problem isn't the splatter itself. It's what happens after. The average person touches their face about 16 times per hour. That's not a choice. It's largely unconscious. So picture this. You've just fought through a pack of zombies, you're covered in blood, and now your body is going to spend the next hour pressing that contamination directly into your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Every single touch is a dice roll, and it gets worse. You're sweating from the exertion, which softens your skin and makes existing cuts more permeable. Then you sit down to eat or drink. And congratulations, you've just introduced zombie blood directly into your GI tract. Mucous membranes absorb pathogens far more readily than intact skin, which has a tough outer barrier specifically designed to keep things out, which is, not ideal. The danger was never one big exposure. It's probability accumulation across dozens of encounters where you physically cannot stop touching your own face. Hollywood treats blood like a costume. Biology treats it like a delivery system. But if contaminated blood is a problem nobody thinks about, wait until you hear what happens to all that gasoline everyone's siphoning 6 months into the apocalypse. The gasoline expiration date. Every single car chase in a zombie movie is a lie, and I can prove it with chemistry. Here's the thing nobody thinks about. Standard gasoline starts oxidizing the moment it's exposed to air. Pure gasoline becomes unusable in 3 to 6 months. But here's the kicker. Almost nobody in the US has pure gasoline. The standard is E10, ethanol blended fuel, and that stuff degrades to a completely unusable state in 30 to 60 days. 2 months, your entire post-apocalyptic road trip just ended before the first season of the outbreak is over. But wait, it gets worse. Water contamination as low as 0.5% causes complete fuel system failure. Water settles to the bottom of the tank, corrodes the injectors, fouls the filters, and turns your getaway vehicle into a very expensive paperweight. Diesel lasts a bit longer, 6 to 12 months under ideal conditions, but the moment water gets into that tank, you've got microbial growth eating through it in weeks. They literally call it diesel bug, which is, not ideal. Temperature cycling makes all of this significantly worse. Daily heating and cooling pulls moisture through vents and seals, accelerating every degradation process inside the tank. Underground storage tanks stay more stable, but without power to run the pumps, good luck accessing any of it. And small engine carburetors? They gum up after 2 to 3 weeks on stale fuel. That's a complete rebuild, 3 to 8 hours minimum, assuming you're a specialist, which you are not, because you were an accountant named Gerald before the world ended. So a survivor stumbling into a garage at month 4 will discover that most of the fuel is already garbage. The apocalypse doesn't end with a bang. It ends with a clogged carburetor and a long walk home. But if the fuel situation sounds bad, wait until you hear what happens when survivors grab a katana and expect it to last more than a week. The invincible katana. Let's talk about everyone's favorite zombie weapon. The katana. Sleek, elegant, silent, and in the hands of literally any Hollywood survivor, capable of slicing through skulls like they're made of warm butter. Here's the thing. They're not made of warm butter. A human skull requires 1,200 to 1,600 pounds per square inch of impact force to fracture. An untrained person swinging a katana generates somewhere between 600 and 1,000 pounds per square inch, which means most people literally cannot deliver a killing blow with this weapon. You'd basically be bonking a zombie on the head with a very expensive metal stick. But let's say you're strong enough. Let's say you've been doing your forearm curls and you can actually crack bone. Cool. Your blade's edge degrades within 5 to 10 strikes against bone. After 15 to 25 impacts, you've lost 40 to 60% of your cutting edge. You now own a dull steel bar that costs more than your car. And restoring that edge? That requires specialized whetstones and 30 to 45 minutes of careful maintenance per combat session. Nobody is sustaining that routine past week 2. Nobody. You'd sooner start using it as a walking stick. Then there's the weight problem. A katana runs 2.5 to 3.5 pounds, which doesn't sound like much until you compare it to a machete at 1.5 to 2 pounds. That difference creates 25 to 35% faster fatigue onset. After 30 minutes of swinging, your velocity drops 40 to 50%. You're now slowly waving a dull piece of carbon steel at a zombie that doesn't get tired, and that carbon steel initiates rust within 48 hours, if exposed to moisture without immediate drying. Good luck in the rain. A machete costs $12 and you can buy one at Walmart. But sure, grab the katana. It looks cooler. At least your weapon choice only affects you personally, unlike what happens when survivors start forming groups. The problem with large groups. Every zombie movie builds toward the same fantasy. Survivors find each other, form a community, build walls, and suddenly there's safety in numbers. It's comforting, it's logical, and it's a death sentence backed by math that Hollywood refuses to acknowledge. Here's the thing. Group coordination doesn't scale the way people think it does. Communication links between members grow exponentially. A group of 5 has 10 possible connections. A group of 30 has 435. Every decision, every should we move tonight conversation turns into a sprawling mess of opinions and paralysis. In a scenario where hesitation kills, you've built a committee to debate your own extinction. But the real killer is noise discipline. A small trained team can maintain silence through hand signals and shared instinct. Scale that to 20 untrained civilians and you're rolling the dice every hour. Somebody coughs. Somebody's kid starts crying at 2 a.m. Every additional person is another random noise generator you can't control. You're not twice as loud with twice the people. You're a beacon. Then there's disease. Confined groups with poor sanitation are breeding grounds for illness. Historically, overcrowded shelters see respiratory infections tear through populations within days. You didn't lose one person. You lost your entire fighting force to fever and dehydration. And the resource math is brutal. 50 survivors need roughly 100 pounds of food daily and at least 50 gallons of water. Resource consumption scales linearly while the area you can safely scavenge stays fixed. Meanwhile, leadership disputes, resource hoarding, and factional splits consistently emerge within the first 2 weeks. A group of 50 maintains 0 tactical advantage over an organized squad of 8 to 12. 0. They just consume 6 times the resources. Hollywood frames large groups as civilization rebuilding. The math frames them as a buffet with a scheduling conflict. Speaking of things Hollywood completely ignores, let's talk about the single most underrated piece of survival equipment in human history. It has 2 wheels, and nobody in any zombie movie has ever thought to use one. The ignored importance of bicycles. Nobody in zombie fiction rides a bicycle. Nobody. You've got survivors hot-wiring cars, siphoning ancient fuel from gas stations, and revving engines loud enough to alert every corpse in a 2-mile radius. And not a single one of them thinks to grab the mountain bike sitting right there in the garage. This is genuinely baffling. A bicycle covers 12 to 15 miles per hour on moderate terrain. Walking gets you 3 to 4. That's not a minor upgrade. That's a 300% speed improvement on 0 fuel. You eat food, you pedal. That's the entire supply chain. No degraded gasoline, no engine maintenance, no alternator failures, just legs. But here's the real advantage, and it ties back to everything we covered about firearms. Noise. A bicycle produces roughly 50 to 60 decibels. A running vehicle engine sits at 70 to 80, and decibels are logarithmic, meaning a car is perceived as multiple times louder. You are practically a whisper on wheels. Meanwhile, that vehicle alert radius we talked about? 1 to 2 miles of, hey, dinner's here broadcast to every shambling corpse in the area. A cyclist generates a fraction of that. And the logistics are almost comically good. Strap a cargo trailer to a bike, and a small team can cover 40 miles, gather over 100 pounds of supplies, and return to base in about 8 hours. Minimal detection risk. A vehicle does the same run and basically announces a buffet. Maintenance requires 5 tools. A puncture takes 10 minutes to fix. A chain replacement takes 15. You don't need a mechanic. You need a person with hands. Bikes handle roughly 65% of terrain types. Vehicles manage about 30%. It's the single most practical transportation option in a zombie apocalypse, and Hollywood pretends it doesn't exist. I don't know what to tell you, but if the bicycle problem is funny, the next one is genuinely devastating to every zombie story ever told, because human bodies rot fast. The body decay timeline. Hollywood wants you to believe that zombies shamble around for months, maybe years, slowly hunting the living across entire seasons of television. Here's the thing. Biology doesn't care about your show's renewal contract. A human body, animated or not, follows a very specific and very disgusting decomposition schedule. And that schedule makes the entire zombie genre fall apart. Let's start with the fresh stage. Days 0 through 3. This is the only window where a reanimated corpse functions the way movies show you. Tissue is intact, ligaments hold, motor capability is more or less retained. A fresh zombie is a legitimate threat, no argument there. But then day 3 hits and everything changes. The bloat stage kicks in from roughly day 3 to day 14. Bacteria inside the body start producing gas, and that gas has nowhere to go. The body swells to roughly double its original size. Internal organs liquefy. Mobility tanks as the muscles and soft tissue break down. And here's the fun part. The body starts rupturing spontaneously, just popping open like a forgotten lunch bag in a hot car. Your terrifying zombie horde is now a field of bloated, leaking meat balloons that can barely move. Then comes active decay. Days 10 through 30. Tissue becomes primarily liquid. Structural integrity fails completely. Joints separate as ligaments decompose, which means movement becomes physically impossible. You can't walk without connective tissue. That's not an opinion, that's engineering. Factor in insect colonization, which is one of the single biggest drivers of soft tissue breakdown, and a body in a temperate zone can be reduced to bones within a few months. Hot summer weather accelerates the whole process significantly, meaning your warm weather zombie horde has a shelf life measured in weeks, not the months or years your favorite show pretends. The real survival strategy that nobody in these movies considers? Just wait them out, board up, ration your food, and let nature do the work. A couple of months and the threat literally dissolves. But okay, let's say you can't wait. Let's say you have to fight. In that case, you'd better know what armor actually does for you. The effectiveness of standard body armor. Here's the thing about body armor in zombie movies. Every survivor who straps on a tactical vest immediately starts walking slower, breathing harder, and acting like they're invincible. They are not. They're actually worse off than before they put it on. Let me explain. Full torso coverage requires 4 to 6 ceramic plates. That's 32 to 48 pounds of extra weight strapped to your body. Your metabolic cost for covering the same distance jumps 40 to 60%. Your sprint speed drops by 40%. Your climbing ability tanks by 30%. Your stamina endurance is cut in half. Every single dimension of survival, the running, the climbing, the lasting longer than the thing chasing you, all of it gets objectively worse. And here's where it gets really stupid. Body armor is designed to stop bullets. Zombies don't shoot bullets. A zombie bite generates 150 to 250 pounds per square inch of force, and conventional ballistic armor has zero slash or puncture resistance. It's not built for that. It never was. You've added 40 40 pounds of dead weight to protect against a threat the armor doesn't even address. Even against actual gunfire, stopped rounds still transfer 200 to 400 foot-pounds of residual energy into your chest. That's fractured ribs, collapsed lungs, internal bleeding. The bullet didn't go through you. Congratulations. You're still on the ground unable to breathe, but the real killer is the math nobody does. A full armor kit covers maybe 20% of your body. Your arms, legs, neck, and face are completely exposed. So you've got a survivor who moves 40% slower, exhausts twice as fast, and remains vulnerable on 80% of their body surface. That's not protection. That's a weighted vest with a false sense of security. You know what actually stops a zombie bite at a fraction of the cost? A reinforced leather jacket and layered sleeves. Comparable bite prevention at roughly 10% of the weight. No mobility penalty. No stamina drain. No delusion that you're a walking tank when you're really just a slower, heavier target. But if body armor gives people false confidence about protection, wait until you hear about the location that gives survivors false confidence about safety itself. The myth of the secluded island. Every zombie movie ends the same way. Survivors find a boat, point it toward the horizon, and the camera pulls back on a beautiful secluded island as the music swells. Roll credits. Everybody's safe. Nobody's safe. The island is a coffin with a nicer view. And I can prove it. Let's start with water. Most small islands have zero reliable freshwater sources. No rivers, no aquifers, just whatever rain you can catch and store. Sounds manageable until you remember every person needs roughly 2.2 liters daily just to not die. A group of 10 during a dry spell burns through any stored supply fast. There's no municipal backup. You get what the sky gives you, and the sky doesn't care about your head count. Then there's the boat, your single lifeline to the mainland for medicine, fuel, tools, and everything else you can't grow on a rock. Here's the thing. Remember how we talked about fuel degradation? Ethanol blend gasoline separates and dies in 30 to 60 days. One mechanical failure, one storm, one navigation error from someone who learned to drive a boat from a YouTube video, and that lifeline snaps permanently. Not eventually, immediately. But the part nobody talks about is what happens to your brain. Prolonged isolation wrecks people. Historical accounts from lighthouse keepers, remote research stations, and shipwreck survivors all document the same pattern. Paranoia, aggression, and psychological deterioration setting in within weeks. You've got a shrinking group of increasingly unstable people on a rock they can't leave, running out of water they can't replace, and you still need someone awake 24 hours a day watching the shoreline. Exhaustion cascade begins within the first week, security gaps become inevitable. Add seasonal weather trapping you for months, dwindling food stores with no way to resupply, and the fact that any serious medical emergency without hospital access becomes potentially fatal for something as basic as a broken bone. The island doesn't protect you. It traps you. Survival was never about finding the perfect fortress. It was about understanding what actually kills you. And most of the time, it isn't the zombies. If you enjoyed this video and want to see movie apocalypses I'd survive, ranked, click the video on the screen now.